Go.
Right. Hello there. Welcome to the weekly TPP show. My name's Dill, joined by my co-host Surinder. Our chap with the money, Akhil, has been called into an important meeting. We can't tell you what it is. You can never guess. I'm not sure if he's aiming for number 10 job or if it's the number 11 job. But he said for us not to tell you. So, secret. All right. So that, well, at least that's what he tells us. I think he's probably skiving off and having a few 5 o'clocksies, as he would call them. Right. Surinder, over to you, sir, today.
Okay, today I'm going to take over from Dill and introduce our very special guest, talk about Party Wall Awards. He's our very own Dill Gujral, a Party Wall specialist. And I'm going to hand you over to him to take over and do the presentation. Over to you, Dill.
Surinder, thank you very much. And have you got enough 50p's?
I've already made that arrangement.
You've got enough 50p's. Fantastic. Now, I'm going to ask everybody to, like I do every week, put down your colouring pencils, get out your writing pens. I'm going to give you some good information. And if you're really good, you stay till later on. I'm going to give you an extra piece of bonus. Actually, I might have 2 bonuses for you. Depends, depends how I feel like. Right. So, next question. Can I share my slides? Surinder, can I share my slides?
Certainly. Go ahead.
You put the 50p's in, yeah?
I told you, that's all taken care of.
Okay, so Surinder's being really generous today. We've got loads of 50p's. We've got someone who knows a little bit about party walls. I'm trying not to be boastful here. Yeah, okay. Yes, I've been doing party walls for about 14 years, believe it or not. And yes, it is property related. It's absolutely nothing to do with parties. In fact, complete opposite. I regret to say I wish it was more about parties, but what can you do? Very serious subject. Well, it isn't with me, but it is with most other people. So look, if you're in the property profession, you need to understand this. Let's get going on this little presentation. I'm going to talk about the party wall process. So for about 2 years now, I do a show on I do a weekly show on my YouTube channel on the Party Wall Act, and I try and think of ways of communicating this, because it doesn't matter how hard I try, it is a difficult subject, and thinking about it, even I think it's difficult sometimes. So I came up with this idea, the secret 7 section. Now, these are the 7 questions I get asked most, believe it or not, apart from, where's the party? Okay. So, is it the law? And I'm going to be answering these 7 questions during my presentation. So, pay as much attention as you can. Put away the dog, turn off the phone, or is it turn off the dog and put away the phone? However you want to do. Right, okay, so is it the law? So is the Party Wall Act the law, right? What happens if I have planning permission? So this is a question I get asked quite often. I've got planning permission. And then the next question that comes about is, do I still need to undertake the party wall process? Yeah. So we're up to number 5 now, Surinder. Keep counting. Number 4. This is actually one of my favorites, and I'm going to explain why. Do I need to do the party wall process for removing chimneys? The answer is yes. In fact, that's the one thing you should do. It's difficult. Right. Number 3. And I totally understand why people ask this question. My neighbours have dissented. Can they stop my works? It's a very interesting question. And you should really understand the meaning of this, and it's not your fault. it's not your fault because if they've dissented, it is a legal meaning, and I'm going to come to this shortly. Okay. Now, the other question I get asked frequently is, yeah, we're going to build an extension. I spoke to my neighbours. I had a chat over the fence. We had a chat over the fence. Can we still carry on? So that's one of the important things that people need to understand. And the top of my Secret 7 list is, I sent my neighbour a party wall agreement. I've received no reply. Can I start my works? So these are the top 7 secrets, 7 section, and let's get on with it. Now, why undertake the party wall process? Well, as the name might suggest, it is the law. There's a whole Act of Parliament over it. 1st of July 1997, it came into force. Yeah, so it's been there for about 20-something years now. So it is the law. Parliament actually sat down and passed this act. Okay, I'm not going to go into the history now. Now, the other reason you should undertake the party wall process is, as part of the process, some of the time we get to do what's called a schedule of condition. Yeah, really popular this afternoon. We get to do what's called a schedule of condition. And that involves it's basically a photographic survey of your neighbor's property, a bit like renting a car. So basically you rent a car, and before the works begin, we go and do photographs of the property next door. Yeah. So it gives us a pre-start baseline. Now, this is really important because if you're the person doing the works, you're extending your home, this will protect you from false and malicious claims. So a lot of the times, we don't get to go to our neighbour's house as much as we'd like, or as much as we need, or as much as they don't want us in there. And there's existing damage. And even in our own houses, we become oblivious to it because we get nose blind, we get used to it. And when you've got works next door, they'll start noticing your damage and put it down to your work. So it stops neighbours claiming false and malicious claims. And the next item is, if you don't do the party wall process, your works may be stopped midstream. Yeah? Now, it is your responsibility as a building owner to carry out the works, to carry out the party wall process. It's not your architects, it's not your builders. And final point is, it prevents legal action. So I've had cases where people have started work, they haven't done the party wall process. They've actually had to stop their project midstream. These guys were doing a loft. They actually got away with it. They were really lucky. It took me 10 weeks to resolve these issues. And basically, they were living in a house with no roof. Luckily for these guys, it was in the summer, and there was the weather was quite good for it. Okay, so it is and just to finish off, and I can't emphasize this too much, it is the law. So therefore, as with any law in England and Wales, you're deemed to know the law. And it's no defense saying I didn't know. So a lot of the time we say people say to us, I didn't know about this, or I've got planning permission. So that question of whether you've got planning permission doesn't actually count. So sorry, you need to know this, you need to understand it. And this is one of the stricter laws as well. I'm going to go through that in a minute. Okay, so who needs to pay attention? If you're an architect or you're a construction professional, you should know about this law. Why? Because a lot of homeowners rely on you to give them advice. Even though it isn't your job to coach them, they sort of lean on you to give them good advice. Now, if you're a property developer, this could range anything from refurbishing a single house to having a massive commercial build. So, got asked the question last week, does it apply to commercial properties? Yes, it does. In fact, the law started with the 1939 Building Act, which predominantly took place in central London, and it's been extended to England and Wales, not in Scotland or Northern Ireland. And it applies to residential and commercial. So yes, it applies to all of those. And I think it's a little bit harsh on homeowners. I'm going to come to that in a minute. So if you're a financier, if you do bridging loans or finance development, you also need to understand the party. Now, I've been doing work, we do work for developers. Then recently, and I predicted this about 5 years ago, roughly, and it's coming to fruition now. Finance companies and development companies who are lending money on developments are asking for party wall awards. Not only are they asking for party wall awards, they're actually asking for PI of the party wall surveyor. Now, if you're a property manager or if you're an investor, so if you built a little portfolio, and let's face it, it's quite hard maintaining properties now because of all the compliance regulations. If you've got a little portfolio, you don't want to be doing extra work refurbishing properties that's down to your neighbor's builders. So if you manage a portfolio or if you're a property investor, you need to understand how the act affects you as an adjoining owner. Okay, now, most important group are homeowners. If you're a homeowner and you're doing your own residential extension, please pay attention. This is the question I get asked most of all. This is a group, it seems to have an effect on most of all. All professional developers and people who are in the development business, who are property professionals, shall we say, they can get hold of a party wall surveyor. They can find out. Homeowners seem to be finding it difficult. So, homeowner, or if you're a property professional and you're extending your own home, pay extra close attention. Right. So, number one question, is it the law? Yes, it is. There you go. There's the Act of Parliament that made it a law. I thought I'd put that in. Take that off the list. Okay, now, move this out of the way. I thought I've gone around doing webinars for the last 5 years, probably. Well, 2 years of webinars, then I was doing a couple of years of speaking before when we're in the real world. And I thought, what's the best way to get people to understand this? And I'm coming to the conclusion, if you understand the process, you then understand where you sit in it, what you've got to do next, and how you should handle your project. So this is why I'm going to focus on the party wall process. Okay, this is a two-stage process. It's very much like extending a lease. Now, last week we talked about lease extension. Very similar, and this is where they probably got the idea from. So stage one starts with the building owner, the person doing the works, giving notice to the adjoining owner, saying, we're going to extend our loft. In fact, they don't say we're going to extend loft conversion. It's a slightly different phrase. I'm not going to go into it now. But they give a notice to the neighbours who are going to be affected by their notifiable works. It's not a party wall agreement. Now, I'm going to try not to focus too much on terminology. This is important, though. This is not a party wall agreement. It's simply a notice. The notice to start the process. Stage two is when the fun begins. Stage two decides how the process then moves along. This is decided by adjoining owner. Yeah. So the adjoining owner will say, this is what I'd like. And that's how we move the process along. Okay. So schedule of condition. So they'll say, look, we're happy you could do your works. We'd like a schedule of condition, and as I said previously, it protects both sides from false and malicious claims. So it in fact protects more the building owner because it gives them evidence of the condition of the property next door. And there's a number of times we've gone into properties where there's cracks there. I particularly remember doing some whereby, Surinder, can you give me a minute? I'm going to have to just take this call for a minute. Surinder?
Okay, that's fine.
Sorry, it's a bit of an emergency.
Okay. Hello. Hi, everybody. H, you just asked me regarding what is our aim. Would you like to switch your microphone on? And Jay, if you want to switch your videos on. Can you hear me? Hello? Jay?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I can't seem to switch my video on. I think you've
Okay.
disabled me.
Make course resume. Okay, ask to start video. There you are. You can start your video if you so wish.
Okay, you cannot start your video because the host has stopped it. Right.
Who's that? Is that Jay?
Yeah, that's me. Yeah.
Ask to start the video. You can
Oh,
now.
start my video. Right. Okay. Let's have a look. Okay.
H, are you around? Hello? Right. We wait for Dill to come back.
Actually, can I ask a question, Surinder?
Yes, certainly.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, like the party wall process. Is it very much like town planning, whereby, for example, any sort of planning permission that you actually give for a development, you have to notify by law your neighbours of a planning development. So so this is more of a planning.
No,
if you're in town plan,
this has nothing to do with town planning.
Okay.
This process is completely separate from town planning. What it is that is what the first question was: is it a law? Now I'll ask him a question to clarify whether it's a law or not. My understanding is that if you start your works, before you do that, you have to approach your neighbors if their boundary is within certain distance of your party or of your property wall. 3 meters or what, I don't know what it is, but he will explain that to you.
Yeah.
But what it is that it is to protect yourself from any damage caused by any digging you might do for foundations affecting the other property next door.
Yep.
They might, and if you don't protect yourself, they'll take you to court and say this is a damage caused, but you won't know. So if you have a party wall award and a party wall surveyor employed, they'll go there, take the photographs, and prepare a report of the condition of the property.
Yeah.
No, it's just after. Yeah. Sorry.
No, it's just the reason why it sounds more like a local inquiry, whereby if you do an extension to a development, you've got to notify your neighbours of the development so that you can give them a just cause to object to the development if need be.
No, they can't object to anything. This is not.
Okay.
This is after the planning. They cannot object to it. It is only they have to agree. They can either. It is your duty to get the surveyor to do that work as well for them, what's in their property. They can appoint another surveyor for which you will have to pay for as well.
Oh, right. So okay, yeah.
So it is to protect you for any liability which they might claim that a damage has been caused by your works to their property. Okay, so that is really, it is really your protection and your protection only. Otherwise, you will they can make claims, but you will have no way to say that damage was not there before you started your works.
Right. Okay. This is after this is after the local inquiry has actually happened, and then permission's
After,
been given.
after you've had your planning permission.
Yeah. Okay.
This is nothing to
Right.
do with planning or anything else. And nobody can, once the planning, you can do your works. They cannot stop you doing your works. But the only thing that can happen is that if, while you're doing your work and the damage occurs, they can get you to stop until it's all resolved. So that's just, it's all to protect your, really your position.
Okay.
So it's a very vital process, which if you don't go through, you can end up with a lot of losses and delays.
Right. Okay.
Is that Ike? Ike? Can you hear us? No. Ike, you can start your video if you so wish. Hello? Am I spelling your name right? He doesn't. No, it doesn't seem to be there. So,
Okay.
this is that process only. So, how did you find out about us? Okay.
Yeah, I'm part of the Business Accelerator
All right.
membership. Yeah.
James Nicholson.
Correct. Yes, that's right. Yeah, James Nicholson. So I thought, no, because obviously I'm very much into property myself.
Right.
And yes, so I just wanted to find out exactly. And because I know you actually talking about your lease, and I thought to myself, yeah, okay.
No. That was last week's topic. This week is
Right,
part of, every week we have a different topic, different expert topic.
Okay, that's fine.
Sorry about that, Srin. There's something going on in the background. I actually ducked out for a minute.
Okay, we will just.
I missed the social chat then, haven't I? So okay. So shall I carry on, and then we can go through the questions later on. Yeah. Okay. So let me restart the process. So I thought, what's the best way to explain the party wall questions and how to answer as many questions from people as possible? And the conclusion I'm reaching is we need to understand the party wall process. So stage one starts with the building owner giving a notice. Now, this is not a party wall agreement. They're simply sending a notice to the neighbors, say, look, we're going to be starting works that are notifiable under the Party Wall Act. You have to list the works, and again, similar to last week, there's a prescribed format on some of those notice types. Stage two is when the adjoining owner responds. Now, the whole process is then determined by the adjoining owner's response. So, what's the adjoining owner's response? They can ask for a schedule of condition, which is like doing a survey of the property, very much like renting a car. So we take photographs, basically, capture the condition, and keep it for evidence. The whole idea behind it is to protect the person doing the works. They don't get blamed for damage that already exists. Okay. Now, the second thing they can ask for is a party wall award. That's actually a party wall agreement. So a party wall award is a legal term. And what it actually is a legal agreement between the two parties. Okay. It's a legal document which sets out rights and responsibilities. Mainly the rights are of the adjoining owner, the neighbors, and the responsibilities are of the people doing the works. And there's usually a little statement or procedure, what happens if there's damage. So it's there to resolve that dispute. Okay. Now, I'm going to go through some of the basic terms, and this will help you increase your understanding. So, building owner, there's only ever one building owner in the process. It could be a leaseholder, it could be a freeholder, a limited company, a partnership, whoever owns the property. Now, leaseholders can carry out the property works in a property. So, it could be the leaseholder, it could be freeholder. There's only ever one building owner. Now, on the other side, there can be multiple adjoining owners. So you could have a freeholder, you could have leaseholders. Now, important point here is it's leaseholders of more than 1 year. So there's no requirement for leaseholders of less than 7 years to be registered. So sometimes there are rental agreements between 3-year leases, 5-year leases, 7-year leases. So you have to be careful. Those neighbors may be missed off the land registry. Now, people involved in the property world will know that you can get these funny, I'm not going to say funny agreement, these intricate agreements whereby people have received rights to receive profit on that. So they're also notifiable under the Act. And the final set are people who are contracted to buy land. So you've got 4 different classes of adjoining owners. And you could get the scenario where you've got an adjoining property, they've got more than one type of adjoining owner. Okay. And now, just to clarify, the reason I put the freeholder in a circle, I'll come to when I give you a bonus. I see a lot of templates being used. Government's got their own templates. We have our own templates. We're quite happy to share them. But the problem with those is they're only useful if your neighbors are a freehold house. If they're anything else, don't use them. It's going to cause you more problems. And just to finish off at the bottom bit, AST tenants, so tenants of less than 1 year, they're not notifiable. Council tenants aren't notifiable, and mortgage companies aren't notifiable. Okay. Now, for each, so I'm going to put this process in a little bit more of a useful diagram. So, see this process? Let's see if I can explain it slightly better to you. So for each notice, for each adjoining owner, this is what's going to happen. You as a building owner or your surveyor, building owners try and do it themselves. They don't always get it right. So this isn't a pitch for work. This is just the honest truth. It's quite an intricate process. So each notice you send out, you're either going to get the neighbor saying, yeah, go ahead, Dill, you're a good guy. We like you. You're super good. We like your channels. We like your YouTubing. So go ahead. We'll give you consent and carry on, but do a schedule of condition because we won't have any issues after. That's the first way. Next way is they're going to say, well, we're going to dissent to the notice. Now, remember my question about dissenting and stopping works? They can't actually stop your works. All they can do is appoint a surveyor to resolve the dispute. And the dispute actually is the time and manner of the works that will be done. Now, they've got 2 options here. They can either use the same surveyor as you or have their own surveyor. And when you're doing residential works, loft conversions, rear extensions, taking chimneys out, there's not much difference, and the same process will happen. So you'll have a schedule of condition and a party wall award. That's the output of it. Now, remember one of my secret 7 questions I asked, what happens if there's no reply? Can I start works? Well, actually, you can't. What's going to happen is if you get no response from the adjoining owner, I'm going to go through the timescales. You have to send them a reminder letter. You say, look, please appoint a surveyor, or one will be appointed on your behalf. Essentially, that's what the letters say. And some clever clog said, well, if that's what happens and you have to wait for the neighbor, they can stop your works because they don't like what you're doing. It's another way of frustrating the works. So Parliament said, okay, we can't let that happen. So what happens is you appoint a surveyor on their behalf, and then you continue. Now, this is quite an interesting diagram. It's quite important. It's quite good for explanations. Okay, so I'm going to go through the 10-4 process and put some timescales. This is important. This is what basically happens if there's no response. So send a notice, and when you get hold of a notice, you'll see 14 days you would have been deemed to have dissented. It's actually 14 plus 2. And to be more precise, it's 2 working days plus 14 days, so it's 16 days. If they don't respond, you should send a 10-4 letter to them. 10-4 letter is a letter saying, you haven't responded, you're in dissent. Can you either reply or appoint a surveyor, or we're going to appoint one. And after 12 days from that 10-4 letter, you should appoint a surveyor on their behalf. People don't like doing it, they don't understand it, and they don't get this issue explained, because until they do that, they can still end up with with this thing open, and so the neighbor can pop up anytime and appoint their own surveyor. The whole process stops. So the way to deal with it is to appoint a surveyor on their behalf. This surveyor will then look after the neighbor's interest, write to them saying, look, can we have access for a schedule of condition? Now, they can't force their way in. They can't make the adjoining owners give a schedule of access for a schedule of condition. So all they can then do is create an award and state in the award, we requested a schedule of condition. Nothing was forthcoming. So we're going to issue this award. And at that point, they can start works. Okay. Now, if you don't carry out the 10-4 process, if you as an adjoining owner receive that letter and say, we've had a surveyor appointed on your behalf, the best thing you can do is to engage in that process, give them access. So quite often they'll say, initially they'll refuse access, and then sometimes we get called back. Or as a building owner, you should appoint a surveyor and finish this process, because otherwise your works are likely to get stopped midstream. That's the important thing to understand. Okay, now here's the wording here's a draft of wording in a 10-4 letter. I've never seen it in a website, so I'm going to put it out there. And if you're going to do your notices by yourself, take a screenshot of this, and I think we'll be able to give templates out as well. So this is important. This is the next step of the process. It's not on the internet, so I thought I'll put it out there. So that it's a very simple letter saying, we sent you a notice on this day, you haven't responded. If you don't respond within another 10 days, we'll appoint a surveyor on your behalf. You can still use our surveyor. So it's just to get a better result for you. 3-paragraph letter. So now when I do my YouTube show, I give everybody a bonus. So I thought I'd give it to the TPP viewers. And if you like, you can get hold of this. So government, when they started this Party Wall Act, brought out this booklet, and this is some of the illustration. This booklet keeps changing. So first it was a red cover, then it became a white cover. Now it's on the internet. I'm not quite sure what they're doing with it at the moment. They keep changing their website. So I can't give you a definitive place to go to get it. But if you Google it, you'll find it. Okay. However, it's very good for explaining the law, but in terms of notices, it's not very good. And it doesn't explain the process too well. So we created one just before the lockdown, actually. This is a PDF, you can get it absolutely free. We created a checklist, so you do each process and you tick it and go to the next one. The other thing we noticed with the government notices, they were really difficult to read and hard to fill in. So we created simplified templates for you. They're within this PDF book. Okay. Now, I mentioned earlier, if your neighbors are not freeholders, don't use this. So what do I mean by that? So if pretend this is your home, semi-detached, detached or terrace, and you've got your neighbors are freehold property, or that's right next to you, or if they're within 3 meters, you can use these templates. So this is good to go for that. If, on the other hand, you live in a house that's been converted into flats, and you own either the ground floor or the top floor flat, and you're putting a loft or a rear extension on, and you've got neighbors that are houses still, it's 50-50, and you're going to get yourself into trouble. So I would recommend you need to take some advice. Don't always use those templates. They don't always work, and it's too difficult to explain the intricacies. It doesn't mean you're clever or stupid. It's just so complex to get those notices right, and there's other issues that you need to understand. So I wouldn't use those templates. The government or ours, we can't make them work. Now, the other scenario is where you've got a house, and say the next door house has been converted into 2 flats, or you've got a block of flats next door, and you're going to do something to the party. So it could be a house, it could be a shop. You're about to do something to the party wall, and you've got a number of flats next door. Do not use these templates. They're not going to work for you. You need to have a bigger and better understanding of the project and the intricacies. So look, there's my YouTube channel. There's some stuff on there. Try and do a weekly show on it. You'll get the templates. If you like the templates, contact us. We'll send them through TPP as well. Now, all I do is ask you to subscribe and share, or like and subscribe, both to the TPP channel and to my YouTube channel, just so we can spread the message further. I've actually got an extra bonus. Now, I thought I'd give you an extra bonus. How can I help people who are about to do the party wall process save a bit of money? So this is what usually happens when they're thinking about doing an extension or a rear extension loft conversion. So they'll start the planning application. They'll wait till the planning application comes through, and then they'll start the party wall process. Now, there was something not quite right here. Let me try and explain what happens. Behind the scenes, as soon as you put your planning application in, if you put it in this Monday, by Friday, you would have got at least a dozen letters saying, your neighbors would have got at least 12 to 16 letters saying, your neighbors are about to do works, you can appoint us as party wall surveyors, and your neighbors will have to pay the bill. 99% that's correct, not always. So what's happening is the neighbors are either signing up accidentally, or some of these things look like a form. They're appointing surveyors next door when they don't need to, or they don't want to, or they didn't mean to. And you, as person doing the works, are getting an extra bill for their surveyor as well. So while thinking, I thought, how can this process be improved? How can we increase your chances of getting a consent, i.e. your neighbor either using the same surveyor as you or doing a schedule of condition? Okay, so this is the way I think you might have a chance of saving some money. As soon as your first draft of your project is ready, before you submit it for planning under PD, you should actually do the party wall notices and give them to your neighbor or post them, depending on if they live there. If it's a rental property, just do the post. Don't give it to them. Don't worry about finding the addresses. Your surveyors will do that. Start the party wall process, then submit your planning application. It's a slight tweak. It increases your chances of getting a much more cost-effective result in terms of party wall process. So that's quite important. It's a slight tweak, but I think it. Let's say it'll increase your chances of getting a consent from your neighbor, saving their surveyor's cost 20 to 30% of the time. So it's worth a go, and you've got nothing to lose. Okay. Now the other reason for doing this arrangement is you want to start running the party wall process as soon as possible, because buried in the back of legislation, I actually had to ask a barrister on this, and this is where he came back. He said at the back end of paragraph 12C, it says the adjoining owners can wait until the expiry time is over. The other thing you're getting is your neighbors are getting what they call unsolicited approaches from other party wall surveyors. So that's where people are sending them letters saying, appoint us, and it's no cost for you. Your neighbors are going to pay you for the cost. So why not appoint us? To avoid that, what you want to do is get in there before your neighbors get. So this essentially is my top tip for saving money on the party process. I know things are about to become tight because energy is about to go up and everything else is about to go up. So I hope you find that tip useful. Okay. That's the rundown of the party wall process. Whether you're a homeowner, you're a surveyor in a different field, you're a construction professional, it's quite important to understand. A little bit, I'm sorry I got pulled away with a little bit of a disjointed presentation, but hopefully you find that useful. Have you got any questions for me, Surinder?
Yes, I certainly have.
Go for it.
Your first question you said you're going to answer is it the law?
Definitely, yes. The Party Wall Act is the law.
Is it not? Is it a legal requirement?
Yes. It's a 100% legal requirement. It's enshrined in law. And worst of all, it's one of these laws that you can't delegate to your builder or your project manager or your architect. You, as a property owner, are personally responsible for carrying it out.
So you have to serve. What if you don't serve a notice and
if you don't,
and nothing goes wrong? Have you acted illegally?
So in the sense there, it's not like planning where you can't retrospectively enforce it. Yeah? So planning will come down and take enforcement action and maybe knock down your house or your extension. They can't retrospectively enforce it, but the problem you're now getting is people who've done extensions then get asked for the party wall agreement when they go for mortgages and conveyancing. So
that is still, to me, still doubtful whether it's a legal requirement. If it's a legal requirement, you've done something illegal, so that there should be consequences for that. You said they cannot do it retrospectively. Does that legally say that?
No, because it's sort of how legislation is being enforced at the moment. So they don't go back and enforce it at the moment. Now, there's some cases going on that might change that. At the moment, they don't enforce it.
So how can the building societies and others go retrospectively?
Well, the finance guys are saying, where's your, when we do, so the solicitors will ask in a conveyancing question, where's your party wall?
Okay, so if I want to buy a property, say,
yeah,
and that had an extension done, say, 3 years ago.
Yeah.
But there was no party wall.
Okay. So we get this question quite often, and solicitors say, where's the party wall? Have you got a party wall agreement? And we'll have to say, no, it's not it's not retrospectively enforceable. So it depends on if your solicitor is willing to understand and accept that, or whether they're not, and they say not willing to accept it, basically.
No, if the solicitor may be, but what happens if the mortgage society then says, mortgage company says no?
Well,
can they?
They can if they don't understand the law, and you might have to get us to do a little email or a letter or something.
Okay, fair enough. Now, you said that if they appoint their own surveyor, you have to pay the cost as the owner of the construction building.
Yeah, so there's an intricate piece of the actual principle is it's decided by the surveyors, and the principle they use is who benefits from the works. So, for example, if you're doing a loft conversion, you're going to get all the benefit. The neighbour's not going to benefit from it. So you bear the cost to go with it. Whereas if you're repairing a chimney stack or demolishing a chimney stack or repairing a party wall together, you're both benefiting, then the costs get split. So it's not always true that the building owner always pays the costs. There's a bit of intricacy behind that idea.
So what you're saying is if it's a terraced house and the chimney is being removed, it could be that both the parties share the costs of the survey.
Yeah, so when we say chimney removal, you have a right to remove your chimney breast, which is below the roof line, but chimney stack you can only remove with the consent of the adjoining owner.
Okay.
And in that scenario, normally they don't apportion the cost, but if you've got a repair on a chimney stack, then definitely the cost should be split.
Okay, yeah, but then you don't need a party wall award because both the parties got together to get it repaired anyway.
Yeah, well, you say that, but sometimes one party lives there and says, we need to repair this, and the other party's absent. Yeah. And you also get this scenario on retaining walls as well.
Right.
And party walls where in a garden they're shared and so forth.
Okay, so if he's an absentee owner,
Yeah.
you still can't recover the money because they're not there. If you can't find them for a party wall, what do you want to be able to find them to recover any monies?
Well, we could do the party wall element. The legal action is the next stage, and that's for lawyers to advise on how they recover that money.
Okay, that's fair enough. Okay, that's fine. Thank you for that presentation. It's very, very helpful. And please do come and do it again.
Yeah, no, it'll be my pleasure. Hopefully we won't get dragged away in the middle. Got a question for you, Surinder. Who we got next week?
Next week, we have Simon Sherlock.
Oh, fantastic. Simon's back. Our chum. I'm looking forward to that one.
He's going to do a presentation on using your pension to invest in commercial property. He's a SAS specialist.
Excellent. Simon's always... I'm wondering if I can be silly with Simon. I guess he won't.
Well,
we always have a good laugh together. Yeah. So join us next week. And it's a very important subject. So
it is important in the sense that you can use your pension monies, release it to do a commercial invest in property. Well, I believe it's for commercial property only, not for residential properties.
Yeah. Okay, fantastic. Look forward to that next week. See everybody next week. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Thanks, Dale. But can you stay on the line? We'll have a chat. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. We might have to come back. Okay.
Thank you, everybody. Okay, there's just two of us left now.